Welcome to the Grief Pod with Venetia Quick. This is a weekly podcast which looks at every aspect of something which has or will at some point affect us all. And that is grief. Whether you've lost a loved one or about to lose someone you know, or perhaps you're simply trying to help someone navigate their grief and don't know where to start or what to say, then perhaps this is the podcast for you. Each week I'll be bringing you different stories and experiences of loss, love, hope and at times humour. On September 26th, 2007, firefighter Brian Murray was killed alongside his colleague Mark O'Shaughnessy as they were fighting a fire at a disused factory just north of Wicklow town. The two firemen, Brian, who was 46, and Mark was 26, died in a tragedy that's still shrouded in controversy. An unspeakable tragedy, I think it's fair to say, hasn't deterred Brian's son, also Brian, from joining the fire service, and he's also stationed in Bray in Wicklow. Brian is my guest on this week's episode of the Grief Pod, and you're very welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I suppose, can we start by talking about your dad?
Yeah.
Brian, because he died in the line of duty.
Yeah.
An ultimate hero.
Yeah.
It'd be fair to say.
Definitely, yeah.
And you're one of 15.
Yeah. The oldest, the eldest of 15.
The eldest of 15.
Yeah.
So your dad, 46, was incredibly young and left a young family.
Yeah, my mother, it was 47 at the time. They were childhood sweethearts. The place where he actually died was where they met, believe it or not, as fate would have it. They met there when they were 16 years old. They worked together. He was just a machine operator. She was the same. And yeah, what a tragic, ironic twist that turned out to be, you know.
Yeah. What sort of a guy was he? Because, you know, it's a job that's a vocation.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very selfless job. It's a job that, I mean, we were just talking about before. It's not just going in and putting out a fire. No,
it's a very unique job in the fact that we can do everything. Firefighters all across the world, we all do the same thing, whether it's Bray, Donegal or New York. We're trained the same to the same standard. So I suppose that he lived and breathed for the fire service. He was a consummate professional. He was very much someone that was looked up to within the community. We grew up, where I grew up was in Fassaro in Bray, County Wicklow, an unbelievable community, but very poor in the 80s. He was involved with the local soccer team, him and a couple of other of his friends, and then he went into the fire service, and that completely changed his thinking on a lot of things.
In what way?
You could see that although he loved the job, the tragedy behind what used to happen, because Bray is a retained service and was back then very much different to it is now. There was a lot of people that, I suppose, that there was the Cassidy fire, the Cal fire in Old Court. Incidents like that upset him. Children dying, women dying because of time. So the fire service were on a paging system. They had to travel from their houses to the station, and then from the station to the fire. So
time was lost.
Time was always lost, and that's still the case in a lot of stations around the country today.
Wow, is it the same in Bray?
It is still the way it operates.
So you would be stationed at home technically until you get a call.
Yeah, so we get bleeped, and we all carry a pager. You could be down the town, you could be playing football, you could be doing anything, shower, anything, and the pagers go, and you drop everything and you go. You've no idea what you're going to until you get to the station. So, back in, I suppose, the older days, 25 years ago, when he was at his height in the fire service, traffic wasn't quite as bad, but the circumstances around being a firefighter were a lot different than they are now. They had less staff. They might have to sit in the station for a couple of minutes when they all arrive, waiting for a driver to come or waiting for another member of the crew to come. And unfortunately, the morning that Mrs. Cal and her son died, he was in the station, and there was people from the Old Court is 200 metres across the road, and there was people banging on the doors of the station because they thought that the firemen slept in the station and stuff. So my
But
dad
that's
was...
an assumption,
And it's,
you know,
it's
like
a massive
in
assumption.
a thing, then you all go down the pole and you hop in your thing.
No, the only really place that happens in Ireland, in this state, is Limerick City, Cork City, Dublin City, Dundalk and Drogheda are the same, and Galway City. I don't think I'm leaving any. Or Waterford as well.
Yeah.
Everywhere else that you see, like large urban areas like Naas, Navan, Newbridge, Bray, places like that, they're all on a paging system, which in 2026 is staggering to me. So.
Wow, we might touch on that a bit
Absolutely.
later on. Just nearly 19 years ago, it is now. What do you remember about that day? Because I'm sure for you it's just a day that never goes away.
Absolutely. I remember, if fate would have it, I was in my mother's house on the Tuesday night, and we were having a bit of, it was odd because we were all together in the house, and it never really happens because there's so many of us, and a couple of us lived in Arklow at the time, and it just so happened that Tuesday evening we were all in the house, we were slagging, we were having the crack as we always do about football or rugby or whatever it is. And I remember leaving that night, obviously not knowing it was the last time I'd see him. The next morning I got up and I was due to drive to Galway. I worked for a friend of mine at the time, and I was due to drive to Galway, and I just said I'll take the day off. You know, I went on the DOS and went into my mother. Like we were very, very close. So like my parents were, as much as they were parents, they were like friends as well. Like I'd been to concerts with my mother, I'd been to football matches with my father. Very, very different dynamic, I know.
And especially with such a big family.
Absolutely.
That's, you know, it's
so
unusual, I suppose.
I called in and I said, do you want to get some breakfast? Whatever it was. So we hopped in her Jeep. I'll never forget it. We drove up to town and we were coming back down over the Dargle Bridge, and we could see smoke, massive amount of smoke. And I remember saying to my mother, "Jeez, we'd be listening about this now later, you know." He'd be at home telling stories.
Because I'm sure you assumed straight away that your dad would be.
Oh, we knew he would be there.
Yeah.
So we went back up to her house, and probably about a half an hour later, I don't know what it was. It was very, very strange. I got a horrible feeling in my gut. Genuinely, I'm not a big believer in religion or anything, but I got a horrible feeling in my gut. And then my phone rang, and it was a friend of mine that worked as a civil servant in Dunleary. And she said, I think there's something wrong in Bray. I think there's a fireman in trouble. Is your dad all right? And it was weird the way it all came together at once. And I got off the phone feeling a bit sick. And I rang the fire station to see what was going on. And I knew by them, their reaction, that something was off. So I jumped in the Jeep and I said to my mother, we better go down and have a look. We went down. The guards obviously had blocked off the area. I knew there was something very, very wrong when I saw a young guard that was manning at the end of the road, and he was visibly upset. I mean, you know. Yeah. Once
can
you
see
it,
it.
there's something wrong.
Yeah.
So I went up to the guard, and he could look at me. You know, he obviously knew who I was. My mother was there. We were a big family. Everyone knows who we are. And he was like, "Oh, can you just stay here, please?" We obviously pushed him away, and we ran up the road. And I knew when I saw the station officer's helmet, there's ranking system. I knew when I saw his helmet that my father would have been in the building, because if the station officer was off, my dad would have been outside controlling the scene. But if the station officer was there, Jim would have, like, my father would have been his go-to guy back then, like get in there and sort that out or whatever, you know. I'm not saying that's what happened. So I knew then, and I remember running up the road and I saw some of the firemen that were his brothers and his best friends, and they were visibly upset. My mother was behind me. I'll never forget the screams. The sisters arrived. It was chaos. Everybody converged on the scene at the same time, and that's when I saw the two bodies on the road. Brian and Mark's bodies were out on the road at that stage.
Just there for everyone to see.
Well, the lads had just taken them out. Obviously the firefighters that were down there on scene were through unspeakable trauma, and like
absolutely,
like my father would have been, and any of them will tell you, somebody that they looked up to. So when you see somebody that you might look up to that had done so much within his career and had taken care of so many people,
and is now there because of his career, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, obviously, there's been a lot about what happened, and you know, how your dad died and how his colleague Mark, who was so incredibly young as well, what actually happened?
When they arrived on scene, they were obviously I can only really talk about what is in the media already and what's proven by An Garda Síochána and the HSA as fact, and they're all. I mean, if anyone wants to Google it, they can. They'll see it. There's still ongoing court cases. Yeah, incredibly, 20 years on almost. So I don't want to obviously get myself into trouble. No. But when the lads arrived, the reality is they were short-staffed. The service back then, countrywide, not just in Bray, wasn't up to scratch. We only have started to bring that back up to scratch in the last few years. There was strikes recently. But on the day itself, whatever decision the lads made, the station officer, my father, and the lads on scene, subsequently the lads had to go in and deal with the fire. And people might say, oh, well, why were you in there? Or there was nobody in there. Well, first of all, how do we know nobody was in there? Exactly. And second of all, that's what we do. Yeah. You know?
It's the unknown.
It's the unknown, exactly. So when they went into the building, it was 11:03. I know that because it was all logged on the board. They went into the building and they never came back out alive. I mean, by the time...
Because the roof...
It wasn't the roof. They died as a result of fire. They didn't die as a result of a roof collapse or anything like that. So I believe it was a thing called a flashover. Again, I don't want to be saying anything that could get myself into trouble, but the facts were that when the lads went down in the building, there wasn't enough people outside to go and rescue or go and put, you know, a meaningful rescue together. There was two guys outside who've been terribly traumatised since. One in particular, a good friend of mine, the guy's haunted by it. Yeah. You know, and again, he done what he could. They done their best. Yeah. Now when Greystones arrived and the other resources arrived eventually, and I do say eventually, without getting myself into trouble, it was a lot longer than it should have been. They could then go in after them. You know, the fire had died down or whatever had happened. The guys outside had obviously brought conditions to where the lads could go in and get them. They got them, retrieved them, and they were dead. Yeah, I think it was maybe 11:03. I'm not sure at the time they were taken out of the building. I'm sure it was probably half an hour or so.
So, to all intents and purposes, it was quick that you know of.
Their deaths?
Yeah.
Again...
But you don't know?
Again, I do know.
Okay.
And I don't want to get myself into any trouble, but they were alive for a lot longer, I think, than people realised they were.
Okay. Were they unconscious?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay.
Now, again, that's... You know, I don't want to be sort of speculating on anything. So the truth will come out on everything in the next few months, hopefully. It's been,
So your mum was standing there with nearly all her kids.
Yeah, there was me, Fiona, Joanne, my cousin Lindsay, my cousin Nolly. I don't know where they came from. Yeah. I think Lindsay was just going home for lunch. There was a couple of my sisters that obviously got wind something was wrong. And we just congregated there. But it was bizarre because some of his old crew that had left were across the road as well. They had just wandered down by chance to see, oh, sure, look, there's a big fire. You know yourself. Yeah,
it's probably one of those things as well, because such a small community in one way, that if there's somebody that works in the fire service, they see a fire, they might be just, even though they're not supposed to be on call, they might be just drawn to it anyway.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's the vocation, it's the want to help.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For you guys, then, obviously, big family.
Yeah.
You know, it's an awful tragedy of basically two heroes that died in the line of service. There's media attention. I think there was a photo from the funeral in the picture, quite a poignant one. And you sort
of... the little girl, was it? That's my daughter, Katie.
That's your daughter?
Yeah. So she was the only granddaughter at the time. She was I mean,
it's just when
she
you
barely
see that
spoke for-
photo,
yeah.
it doesn't come out of your head. It's
No.
just one of those photos.
And like, even from the day that it happened it was a Wednesday, it was a beautiful Wednesday, you know, morning, and you know, we went down. What happened. I had to go identify the body with my brothers. My uncle arrived. It was an absolute. I can't describe how horrific it was.
Yeah.
The O'Shaughnessy's, who were a smaller family, and they had to deal with that too. The Mark's mother, his brother Eamon, sister Niamh. I mean, Mark's fiance at the time, Hazel, his best friend Keith. We all became really close, because we had to fight.
What was coming together.
We knew what was coming. We knew that we were going to have to come together, and we were going to have to meet this head on, because what happened in the aftermath of it is there for everybody to read.
Yeah.
You know?
And I suppose when a tragedy happens like that involves two families, there's a tendency that those families will come together and support each other, because only really they know how each other feels.
Absolutely agree. I think even from in my own career, I've been to scenes where I've seen parents that have lost children, and I kind of understand what that feeling is like, to be there on scene when a loved one is in front of you, either tragically killed or from, by their own hand, whatever it might be. I remember putting my arms around a mother one day. Her young son was dead, and I could feel her shaking in my arms, and it felt exactly the same as when I grabbed my mother. So grief is grief.
Yeah.
Whether
the
it's
shock as well
yeah,
on top.
Yeah, sudden shock, whether it's a firefighter that's died like that, or whether it's somebody has been knocked down, or somebody's had a heart attack. I think grief is grief,
Your mum she just comes across, because I've read a couple of interviews that she gave as well, and she's left with 15 kids. No matter how old you are, when you're mum, you're still there for them, and while you're trying to deal with your own grief, you put that on the back pardon the pun, on the back, and you put your kids' grief first, and obviously there was granddaughter. And how did she manage? How did she get through? Because she's advocated since, and she has been quite a force of nature. Yeah,
she's a very strong woman. Amazing character. I mean, growing up, I was always slagged at home as being the mammy's boy. I suppose I'd almost hung around my mother, or went to concerts with her and stuff like that. But she has a resilience and a strength in her. When that happened, she was absolutely good. Childhood sweetheart.
Best friend.
They did, there's a picture of them 2 days beforehand. It's my mother's birthday on the end of September, and we decided to surprise her a week before.
Wow.
Honestly, there's a picture there online, and it's just some of the things that happened in the build up to it. But we managed, and there was a lovely picture of the two of them sitting there, and you can see her looking at him, how much she meant to him, So, my sisters were incredible. Joanne, Fiona, Sinead, the way they looked after the younger brothers, the way they looked after the younger sisters, they really helped my mother and get through everything. Whereas the lads were we were trying to deal with the funeral, we were trying to deal with the up and coming fight that was ahead of us, that we knew was coming. My father did say in a quote that if things don't change, a firefighter's going to die.
Wow.
And subsequently it was him and young Mark that paid the price,
But I think for her as well that, because you have a brother who served in the Lebanon.
That's right, my brother Darren, he's a soldier. He's actually in Australia now. Wow. He took his pension here, I think, or whatever he did in the Irish Army. He done his time anyway. He earned it, and he's actually in the Australian Defence Forces now.
Wow. Yeah,
so
but
him
for
and
her,
his kids,
that must be at the back, always going, what if? Because it's a job that you're in the line of.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've two brothers in the Coast Guard as well. And
Wow.
there's me and Sean, who are firemen
Wow.
as well. Darren's a soldier, and Joanne's so we love a uniform in my family.
Or you just have that vocation.
Maybe.
Like it runs through the vein.
Yeah.
You joined the fire service not too long after.
No, 2008 I went in on recruits. So
Wow.
it was always something that I had in the back of my mind to do. Believe it or not, my brother Barry, and he was very close to joining even before I was, and my father talked him out of it.
Wow.
He just didn't feel that it was an environment that was fit for a young person to come into. With myself, he was kind of, yeah, maybe Barry's a few years younger than me, so he just, he was
Felt the age,
He was
maybe?
he was of the
Yeah.
opinion that Barry, go finish your mechanics trade,
Yeah.
and if you still want to do it then. I think he felt Barry maybe needed a few more years, and thank God he did, because it could have been him and Barry, or him and me. You just don't know. But after that happened, yeah, it became more that I wanted it more then, in a strange
It
kind
didn't
of way.
put you off. You just felt. Did you feel? I suppose that for your dad, and particularly because he died in the line of duty, that you had wanted to take over that mantle, that you wanted to continue on.
Yeah, I suppose, like, we grew up, as I said, in a community that was very based around community, and the fire service again is another community. So maybe it's that way of thinking. I seen how much he loved the job. I seen how much it made him and it broke him at the same time. And I guess I just kind of a similar personality to him. I felt it was something I could do. I felt it was something I could bring change into eventually. And yeah, I just went for it, and here I am.
Because there's been some coincidences as well. Like
Yeah.
on one of was it the 5th year memorial, you were actually that morning had
That's
been
right.
fighting a fire.
Yeah, so that was in Old Court again. There was a fire there or whatever, and we'd gotten a call over, and it was on his anniversary. Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. I'll never forget that day. We were standing down at the factory. We were all lined up in our uniforms, and you could just smell the smoke off us, because it was that fresh. So yeah.
Wow. Do you find as well that there are days where, I mean, obviously there's difficult days, there's little triggers, I presume more so at work for you, about your dad and what happens. Do you ever come into a situation where you get a fear that this could be it for you? Do you ever get that?
We've all had close calls. Anyone that operates in the fire service for a long period of time, you're going to have a close call. That's part and parcel of it. Whether it's something as silly as it's on the roadside, or it could be in a fire in the most dramatic environment possible. There was another firefighter killed in February 2007 as well in Limerick before the lads, and a guard. They were run down at a road traffic accident by a drunk driver. So it's not just fire that we can.
Yeah, I know. That's what we were,
Yeah.
we were talking about as well, that it's sort of, you do just think, and I know from my own experience that when my husband died, the fire brigade were first on the scene.
Yeah.
And they were amazing.
Yeah.
That was the first port of call
I
that
presume
came.
that was Dublin.
It was. Yeah.
They operate the ambulance out here
Yeah,
as well. They're
yeah.
absolutely amazing.
They're incredible.
I mean, their medical expertise is
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. But it's just these sort of, I don't think people actually realise, well, I certainly didn't, how much the fire brigade do and how much they cover.
Yeah, we do. We really do everything. I mean, if there's somebody's locked we had recently a call where somebody was locked in a premises, and we had the guards call us to deal with that. So obviously the initial response for people when they're in trouble, sometimes for some reason they ring the guards. If the guards don't really know, like, it's sort of out of there, they'll just get fire.
Yeah.
They'll work it out.
Well, I think it's you always have your local Garda station on
Yeah.
your list, just in case
Of course.
you need it. So I
Yeah.
suppose that's the thing. In the days and the weeks after your dad died, the community, I assume, was incredible and helped you guys
Unbelievable.
along the way.
And still to this day they do. So we run charity events every year in their name, and the town comes out, particularly the area we grew up in, the lower little Bray Firefighter area. They'll never forget him.
Yeah.
And Mark the same. I know people don't hear much mention of Mark. It's because I'm always the one who bandying about my father, but what they went through was equally as tragic.
Yeah.
A young guy like that.
Because he's so young.
That loved the job.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember my father remarking about how good Mark was going to be. He was just a couple of years into his career and, you know, just a really, really nice kid.
Yeah.
You know?
And his family now, you still keep in touch and you still...
Yeah. I mean, we've a monument to the two lads in Bray, and just by coincidence where it is, Mark's fiancée, ex-fiancée Hazel, she lives just on the corner of it there, so it must be difficult for her walking past that every day. And, you know, his best friend Keith, and I mean, the grief extends out past the Murray family. It's into the firefighters that were there. There were some of the firefighters when we were at the courts couldn't look at my family without bursting into tears. One guy in particular had to be taken out 2 or 3 times by the judge because he couldn't.
Yeah.
He just kept.
Couldn't. Yeah.
No, he just kept. Every time he looked over and he saw me ma, it was like he just started crying. I think at one stage we were like thinking, just get me ma out of court so he can make a statement. But there's triggers for everybody.
Yeah, of course, because it's affected everybody.
Yeah, I think within the job, for me, it has helped me because I understood how he lived his life, on the pager, you know, doing what we do. I think for me, the difficulty was within the service itself when the court cases started a few years later. Was I don't want to get myself into trouble. Was the sort of the grey area between me and them.
Okay.
And it was
because
very difficult.
Speaking broadly,
of course,
anyone I've talked to, on the podcast that following the death of their loved one has ended up with a court case or, you know, whatever that might be. And there's been various things between accidents and familicide and homicide, all that. That is then you lose your person, and then you've got to find that bit in you, you know, that tiny bit in you, that resolve to go and fight for their name and fight for like the real story. Yeah,
we've been doing that.
And accountability, I guess.
We've been doing that since September 27th, 2007. We've been fighting to keep these two lads, I won't say their names clear, but you could see the carry on after. Yeah. First ever state body that had to be raided by the Gardaí. Again, that's there for facts. Yeah. And again, I'm not talking about the current people that are there now. They're all very, very good people that are in there now. Back then, a lot of them are retired out of it. And what they did was wrong. You know, the state let Brian Murray and Mark O'Shaughnessy down, just like they did the Stardust.
And this has all
victims.
been reported and concluded.
It's all there. I mean, you've got instances of the court cases where they pleaded guilty. The coroner's court had to be stopped by Garda Síochána because of a can that was in the building the day after the lads died, but wasn't in the building the day they died. So you can work that out yourself. And again, your listeners can feel free to Google this stuff.
No, it's there. It's in print. So.
I don't want to get myself into trouble by, you know, but it's the evidence is there, and as I said to you, and I'd be in touch through the fact that I'm a massive union representative. I'd speak to a lot of political parties, and again, they're all of the opinion that the state does owe these men an apology and their families.
Is that something that you will pursue until you're no longer in a position to pursue it?
I think it's important. Accountability is very important.
100%.
You can't cut corners. You can't do things that cause people's lives. 2 young men, 46 and 26. It's actually my father's birthday today.
Is it?
Yeah, he would be 65 today.
Wow.
So
that must
again,
be
still young.
Wow, that must be so difficult. Thinking, what would he be like today?
He'd be happy after the rugby result at the weekend.
Would he have gone?
I don't know if he'd have tried to go.
Yeah.
But no, he was a massive sports fan. He loved the rugby, the soccer. And again, like, I'm grateful because I grew up in and around the 1990 World Cup. I even remember the 88 Houghton goal and stuff like that, and how much it meant to him, because we had nothing, only sport, the Irish people. How much it meant to him. And my younger brothers never got to see that. They, like, we had that Troy Parrott moment.
Yeah.
I can imagine him during that Troy Parrott moment. They won't get to see that or remember that. And like, I have all that Italian 90 stuff with my older brothers to think about. Do you remember this? Do you remember that? And it's, you know, I
so
find
it's harder on them. Yeah.
It's very, very sad that they don't have that with them, you know.
Yeah. Or at least, even if they're the tiny bit, it's the memory.
Yes.
Of, you know, oh, we did that. They only know what they've been told.
Yeah, and so many other the grandkids that never got to meet him. Never. They missed out on that. Him touring up to their soccer matches. He went all my lad's soccer matches. He loved Katie, obviously, with all his heart and soul. She was the only granddaughter, and he would have been the same with all of them. It was just that she was there.
Yeah.
You know? So,
what would you like to see changed now? Are there things that you? I mean, because your dad was quite vocal about things he wanted to see change. What would you like that we can talk about to see change? I suppose
I took up the mantle after in the union kind of rep guy in the station and the county in Wicklow, and I'm very proud to say that. We've made unbelievable changes in the fire service in the last couple of years through the NRFA, through SIP2. We had to go on strike. We had no choice. We were pushed into that position, firefighters all across the state. We stuck together. We got better terms and conditions. But I do think that there still is stuff out there that needs changing. So, again, speaking as on my capacity as a union guy, there is stuff going on in the background now through John Brady, local TD in Bray, Simon Harris, Taoiseach, and they're looking at trying to bring a full-time service into Bray. Now, that's something that my father wanted since the early 2000s. So that's something that I suppose it has a double meaning for me. Obviously, my priority is always the community, and I work within the community. I try to do whatever I can charity-wise in the community. And secondly, it would be a great tribute to him and Mark if that was to change. If Bray was to become the station it was built for in 1986, it was built as a full-time station, but it just never was put into it. And there's other places out there around Ireland that also need to be looked at as well. Other towns, other large urban areas, they're just outgrowing the post World War II system that's there, you know.
You mentioned a couple of times what you've done for the community, what you guys do within the community, and like you've really turned a negative into a positive in some ways. Just with your charity work, with Purple House is one of them, and I think, did you do the Burn Three Peaks?
Yeah, no, what we did was we did the head-to-head challenge last year. That was for Avian's Pink Toy.
Avian's Pink Toy,
and get an incredible charity. We were very honoured to be part of that as firefighters. There's other firefighters more active within Avian's Pink Toy than I am. And that was just something that we came up with locally. We actually have a meeting on Wednesday night in Bray in the community centre to organise, hopefully doing something for the old people's, you know, the Christmas party. I know we're only in February, but the local guards kind of do that, and they're looking for a hand, so we'll go in with them. The Purple House, we do a soccer match every year, and again, it's trying to turn the negative into a positive, but it's also, for me, and there's a little bit of selfishness in this, is to keep their names alive. I think that little kids coming up through the town, whether it's my father or not, should know the sacrifice that Mark O'Shaughnessy, 26-year-old man, like an absolute hero for what he was doing, and obviously my own father. I want their names remembered forever. You know,
and so they should be.
We have their monument, we have their stuff there, but I also want this sort of, within fire service circles on the upper management side, and I do believe this is changing, I want it to be able to be openly talked about. I want firemen in this country and in the UK and Germany and all around the world to learn from what happened. I really think that's important. Instead of them kind of having, and again, this is an older generation, not the newer generation that are there of senior management, we should be able to sit down, talk about it, go through it, This is what we did wrong. This is what they did wrong. This is what
do we
you
learn
did
from
wrong.
it? Yeah.
How do we stop this happening again? And to me, that's one of the most important things, protecting firefighters.
Yeah.
And there's so much that can be learned about the 26th of September 2007. For there's so much to be learned from how we dealt with our grief, to how firefighting should change, to some people putting their hands up when they're wrong and not trying to throw other people under the bus.
Yeah. Finally, how do you think you've changed? How do you think you are probably a different person than if this hadn't happened?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a part of me, and again, there's any of us that were down there that day, there's a part of us stays down there. Some days I go to the gym right around the corner, and this will sound absolutely daft to some people, but there's an apartment block there now. I still don't like driving past there.
No, that's fair. You know,
I can still see their bodies smoking on the road. I can still hear my mother scream. I can still see the lads. I can smell it. You know, it's definitely made me. Sometimes I have to check myself. You know that I might be a bit grumpy or cranky, or I'm not going to say less empathetic. I absolutely am less empathetic, but sometimes I feel like I have to switch on the fact that I care about certain things, if that makes sense. You know, like you might be just in one of them moods where you're in a bit of a rut.
Well, I think you become a bit like you've zero tolerance sometimes.
That's
know?
the best way to describe it. Yeah,
you just
and
like,
have to,
do you know what I mean? And
yeah,
that's
you have
because
to kind of go for a run or something, or go to the gym or whatever it is. But it's we all changed that day. There's no doubt about it. A part of my mother died down there. A part of them firefighters that were down there, myself included. I still see some of them, and they're not the same, and they'll tell you that themselves. They couldn't be. You know, their colleagues, their friends, and the needlessness of it. And again, for me, it's just about stopping it, that it never happens again, that we please learn from this. And in Ireland, we're great at hiding things. Yeah. You know, whether you go back to the stuff with the church and all that other stuff that was going on, again, just hiding things. Yeah. Let's just be honest. Let's have an honest conversation about what happened. Put our hands up, learn from it and move on. And that's, I think one of the greatest tributes to my father would be that if we can all learn from this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stop hiding it.
You know, I really appreciate you coming in on his birthday as well. I think it's lovely how you've talked about him on his birthday, and I think he'd be very proud. So thanks you very much. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Grief Pod with Venetia Quick. You can listen on SoundCloud or wherever you get your podcasts. We also have an online community on Facebook, The Grief Pod, or on Instagram @GriefPod Series.